If your husband or wife cheated on you, or gambled, or abused you, or were on drugs, or did any of the things that might destroy a marriage, does it make a difference in a divorce? Every state has different laws, but in Michigan, which is where I practice, it is a no fault state. In no fault states, you don't have to prove that anyone is at fault or that they did anything wrong to get a divorce. But that does not mean that fault is totally irrelevant. Michigan's only requirement is that one of the parties alleges that there has been a breakdown of the marital relationship such that the objects of matrimony have been destroyed and that there remains no likelihood of reconciliation. In other words, this is the same as citing irreconcilable differences, which is the term that a lot of states use and probably a term that you're familiar with from reading it in the news. Now, no one is going to go into the details of why you believe it that the marriage has been broken down or why you think that there's no chance of reconciliation. No one's going to inquire as to whether you went to therapy, whether you tried to work on your marriage. No one cares. All that matters is that you state that there has been a breakdown of the marital relationship and that there remains no likelihood of reconciliation. As I stated, just because Michigan is a no-fault state, or other states may be no-fault states, it doesn't mean that fault won't be considered. In fact, a judge may consider fault when they're deciding issues of custody, parenting time, spousal support, and property settlement. For example, in determining custody or parenting time, if one party can prove that the other party was abusive, it may lead a judge to find that maybe it's not in the best interest of the kids to be in the custody of that parent. But you have to have actual evidence of this. So some examples of evidence might be photo evidence, video evidence, audio evidence. So like if you've got a recording on your phone, that might be helpful. If there is a police report of somebody committing these acts, if there's an actual conviction, these are all examples of evidence. And while one person may testify or describe the abuse that happened to them, unfortunately, that evidence is not considered as maybe reliable as photo, video, or audio evidence because it comes down to basically he said, she said, and that anyone can say that someone abused them, but to actually prove it sometimes requires additional evidence. And the reason why we require such a high standard is because, again, anyone can say that somebody abused them. Anyone can allege bad acts against a person. And if you are arguing that these bad acts should maybe limit the time that a parent has with a child, we want to make sure that the allegations are proven, that they're truthful, that they're credible. And so oftentimes it'll be helpful to have additional evidence that the stuff actually did happen. Now, once you prove that the abuse actually did happen, now you got to prove that the abuse had an impact on the children and that it makes that parent unfit to have custody or parenting time of those children. So for example, if the abuse happened outside of the presence of the children, so the children have no idea that this ever occurred, then it's going to be really hard to prove that that incident or incidents impact that parent's ability to parent that child. If, however, the abuse was directed towards the children, or if the abuse happened in the presence of the children, then that's pretty strong evidence that behavior may make that party unfit to have parenting time or custody of the children. Here's another example of where you might use fault in a divorce. You might use it to determine spousal support. So in some cases, if you can prove that one party caused the breakdown of the marital relationship, it may impact whether you get support and how much support you get. Let's say one spouse was unfaithful. If the other can prove that that infidelity is literally what broke the marriage and can show that, from the point of that infidelity, then they filed for divorce and there were no other issues, then that party could say that that act is what led to them getting a divorce, that fault is why they're getting a divorce. And again, you would need evidence of this. So You might use text messages or email correspondences, between the parties. You may use video evidence, photo evidence if you saw them together. But just he said, she said usually doesn't cut it. You usually need a little bit more evidence of the fault, of the bad act. And then you would have to show that that act is what caused the divorce. So let's say, for example, your spouse cheated on you, but maybe you gambled away the family life savings. It'd be really hard to say that one of those things led to the divorce because they're both really bad things, right? Like objectively, they're both pretty bad. And so either one might cause somebody to file for divorce. So if both parties committed bad acts, both parties may have some faults, then it's going to be really hard to say that only one party's bad acts caused the divorce. Oftentimes it's not just one person that's at fault when parties get a divorce. Usually there's fault on both sides. But in a nutshell, again, just like with the parenting time and custody thing, you need two things. You need the evidence, and then you have to show a direct impact. As you can see, using fault in a divorce is tricky, and it involves a lot of strategy and planning and deciding, what evidence you need and how to present it and when to present it. And it's honestly not as black and white and clear cut as oftentimes people might think. And so having an experienced attorney on your side to help you navigate through this stuff is really critical. So it's extremely important that you discuss the details of your family and marriage with an experienced divorce and family attorney so that they can help you navigate through these issues and decide whether or not you pursue a certain avenue or whether you just kind of let it go. For more information about fault and how it may impact your case, feel free to reach out to us today at Hermes Law. My number is 248-825-8042. Thanks for watching.